Okay, so the tools you're going to need to span and pitch and lay the boat are the following. You're going to obviously need a pitch gauge. Here I've got a Martin Ollie one. We sell these, they're available at PBR. You also have a 6mm Allen key, a 4mm Allen key, 13mm spanner. This is a ratchet type, and a 10mm ratchet type spanner, and a tape measure. The last thing is, you can see here I've got a spirit level or a straight edge. The good thing about this is you can make sure the boat's balanced, and yeah, you can ensure that. And the good thing about the straight edge is it's nice and long, so you can do your heights with it as well. And you make sure the boat's balanced, and you use it to set the pitch gauge for doing the lay as well. One last thing you will notice that we are using to set this boat up is a set of PBR trestles. The reason we designed these trestles is, as you can see, the boat is sitting upright, still, not moving, not flopping about. No one's going to sit on the trestles and break them either. And they're lightweight, compact, and most importantly, the boat doesn't move when you're trying to rig it or set it up, which makes life so much easier. Okay, so the first thing to do is make sure your rig is on nice and tight. So you get, on a Filippi, you get your 4mm Allen key at the top, get your ratchet spanner underneath, put the rigger on. You can put it on tight, but don't get crazy. And just make sure it's secure and it's on properly, so that when you do all the pitch and lay, that it's actually accurate and it replicates the way the rig is going to be attached to the boat on race day. Okay, so the first thing I do when I rig the boat is I set the span. So what I'll do is make a separate video on span, but you need the 6mm Allen key, and even if you don't set the span before you pitch and lay the boat, you just want to make sure this is nice and tight here, so that it's secured and it's not moving about. So you do that on both sides. Okay, so the next thing to do is you'll see on the pitch gauge that you can adjust this, and you can also adjust this part here. And what you're trying to do is there's a line, it's probably hard to see, but on this Perspex plastic, there is a mark and it's now on 0. And what you're doing is holding that still. And what I'm going to do is put the pitch gauge on the side of the boat like this. What I want to do is get the bobble in the middle. Okay, so the line's on 0 here. Bobble when it's on the boat is in the middle. And then we're going to go over to the gate and try and set the gate so it's 4 degrees to the sax board on the boat here, where the pitch gauge is resting at the moment. So the key thing is set that line to 0 and make sure the bobble up here in the middle is in the center. Okay, so I've set the pitch gauge to the sax board back here. I've got the bobble in the center. Just need to check that that's right. Yep. Okay, now what I want to do is, I'll just double check that. Okay, I've centered the bobble, pitch gauge is on 0, and it's sitting flat on the sax board of the boat where the rigger mounts. Okay, so then what I want to do is bring it to here. Now we've got 4-degree inserts in the gate. So we're putting this part of the pitch gauge flush against the face of the gate. Okay, and then what we do is we move the pitch gauge, the slider, the Perspex slider down, which means we've got actually positive pitch, which is good. And then we center the bobble, okay? And so I've centered the bobble, holding it flush against the gate, centered the bobble, and you can see that we've got about 8 degrees of pitch, okay? So what that means is I've got to move the pin so that its angle reduces the pitch, angles back. Okay, so I'll do that and then we'll remeasure it. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to loosen this, and I need to take some pitch off the gate. Okay, and you just need to loosen it off a bit, angle it back, and then tighten it up firmly but not crazy tight. And this, you can see that I'm using a 13mm ratchet spanner, which makes it a lot easier than if you were using a spanner where you had to take the ring off the bolt head each time. Okay, I haven't changed the pitch gauge. I can check that it's set correctly still and it hasn't moved. It's really important that you're careful with the pitch gauge once you've set it. Okay, now again, I'm just going to repeat the process and try and get the bobble in the middle, which I've done. Check the pitch. Okay, and it's on 5 degrees now. And because we've got a 4-degree insert in it, we're aiming for 4 degrees. So I just need to take 1 more degree of pitch off. Okay, we'll just keep recording and may as well show you the process. It is a long process. It is a bit fiddly the first time you do it, but you've just got to play around with it. And you do get better over time at this. I've rigged a lot of Filippi single sculls now, so I'm getting pretty good with it. Okay, check my pitch gauge hasn't moved. Put the pitch gauge back on the face of the gate, make sure it's flush. Center the bobble. Okay, check my pitch. You can see it's just, I don't know if you can see that, but it's just over 4 degrees. I'm just going to leave it there for the moment because now I'm going to do the lay. Okay, so I've done the lay. I've done the pitch, and it's just over 4 degrees, so I'm pretty much spot on. What I want to do now is just check the lay. So instead of, obviously I was checking the fore-aft orientation of the pin before, now I'm checking the lateral orientation, so the side-to-side orientation of the pin. Okay, again, you want to have this on 0, and what we're trying to do is center the bobble, which I'll do. And this is where the PBR trestles come in, because the boat's sitting still. I don't have to have anyone else holding the boat. And sorry to shamelessly plug them, but they are awesome. And you've got to give credit where credit's due. They're a great product, and any serious coach should have a pair. Okay, so I've centered the bobble. The boat's sitting still, so the boat's not moving. And then we'll go back to the pin and we'll measure the lay. Okay, so as you saw, I zeroed out the pitch gauge laterally, so using the straight edge. Now I'm going to put it flush up against the gate again, and I'm going to do the same thing. So I'm just going to push it down, which probably isn't a good sign, which means I've got the pin's probably leaning in. But again, if the pin was vertical, we should have 4 degrees showing. And depending on what you want to do for setup, and I'm not going to go into setup, but you can have the pin leaning outwards as well. We're just going to go for a vertical pin today. Okay, so I've measured that, and it's on 3.5 degrees. Okay, so that means that the pin is leaning out 1.5 degrees. Sorry, half a degree, I apologize. Okay, so it's pretty close. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just loosen this off a bit and just see if I can tweak the pin in a little bit, so we get 4 degrees, so we know that the pin's vertical. Again, when you're doing this, you see how I adjusted it. You sort of learn to judge how much you need to move it to get the desired change in pitch that you want. And all I was looking for was a very subtle change. So again, just going back, making sure my pitch gauge hasn't moved. Put it flush up against the gate, make sure I'm holding it carefully. Move it down, center the bubble. Okay, and what do we got? Okay, so I moved it too much. You can see that it's almost 5 degrees now. So I have to go back and lean the pin out just a fraction, and you just keep repeating this process till you get it right. As you can see, I made a really small adjustment there. Again, check your pitch gauge is spot on. Bring your gate around. Okay, what do we got? Okay, so you can see it's basically on 4 degrees. I hope you can see that. But the little mark is just under 4 degrees. And we're going to leave it there for today because that's pretty much spot on, and very few people actually feel the difference. And one thing I do need to do is, because I set my fore and aft pitch, I do need to come back now and just check that again to make sure that hasn't moved. So we'll do that now. Okay, so I'll set the pitch off the sax board, zero the pitch, check this, okay, and it's saying 4 degrees still. Okay, so this pin's set. So it says 4 degrees just there. I hope this has helped. If you have any questions, obviously repeat this on the other side. Please let me know, and I'll respond to you as soon as I possibly can. Thanks. Okay, so we've obviously now set the lateral pitch. Now what I've got to do is just check the vertical pitch hasn't moved while I've been setting the lateral pitch. Because it was only a slight change to the lateral pitch, it should be pretty good. That's why it's important to try and get the pin fairly close just by eyeballing it before you start playing around with the pitch delay. Anyway, we'll set the pitch off the side of the boat again. Pitch gauge is zeroed. Bring the gate around so it's facing towards the stern of the boat now. And then we're just aiming to zero the bobble, which I've done. You can see, hopefully you can see that, that the mark is basically on 4 degrees, so it's spot on. So that's done. And obviously repeat this on the other side. And yeah, if you've got any questions about how to do it or what you're doing, please don't hesitate to contact me and I'll help you out. Cheers.